In this episode, we're going to talk about what pesticides I would typically recommend to a pest control company in regards to treating for bed bugs. Welcome everybody to Bedbug TV. I'm your host, Jeff White. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about pesticides. One of the most common questions I get from pest control people is, what pesticides do you use when you treat for bed bugs? So we'll talk quickly about that. And this episode is going to be based, or I should say the tone is going to be more towards the pest control industry. And there is a homeowners episode in regards to this topic out there that you can view as well. And so from the pest control industry's perspective, I got a pest control person watching this video. What do I recommend? And to be honest with you, I'm going to give you a BS answer. And it's going to be, I don't think it matters. Not a whole lot, at least. When I give my talks around the country, one of the big points that I try to make is it's not about what you're using, it's how you're using it. I think I could do a study where I gave a technician team several pesticides for 1 month, a different group of pesticides for another month, a different group of pesticides for the third month, and I bet they would all come to pretty much the same results in terms of treating for bed bugs. And so, listen, for me to say in the beginning that I don't think it matters much might have been a little bit of an overstatement, but I don't think it makes as much of a big deal as people make it out to. And so one of the things you want to consider is that you want to be using several different liquid residuals, and you want to alternate them on different surfaces. And so you use liquid residual A on the first surface, B on the second surface, and then you can go back to A on the third surface, which is fine. You just want to be using different liquid residuals, and the reason we do that is to manage resistance. We know that if we're just using one pesticide, if the population is resistant to it, we're going to have problems. And even if they're not resistant to it, if you're always using the same pesticide, you will see resistance build up in communities and in areas. And so you want to be rotating pesticides, and you want to probably change those pesticides once every, let's say, 6 months or a year, and use other pesticides. And so in regards to what liquid residuals to use, a lot of the industry is using at least one of the dual active or dual action liquid residuals, the ones that combine a neonicotinoid and a pyrethroid. That's the category of pesticides a lot of the industry is going to, at least for one of their rotation. And then the other one in the rotation should be something that's different than that. And so a pyrethroid that's a wettable powder, or a pesticide that falls into a different class. There aren't a lot of options out there, but you shouldn't be rotating two products that are both neonicotinoids and pyrethroids. They're basically the same general modes of action, and so you want to rotate things that are different. And so you should be using liquid residuals, and you should be using multiple liquid residuals that have different modes of action or just different formulations. In regards to dusts, again, I'm not going to sit here and talk about any specific dust. Just know that you need to be treating cracks and crevices with a dust. And so you need to be using one, or I should say multiple liquid residuals, and you should be using a dust to treat cracks and crevices. That's where bed bugs hide. In regards to the dust that you choose, it's really going to depend upon your comfortability. Some companies are using active ingredient dusts, dusts that have an actual active ingredient inside them. I should say a synthetically derived active ingredient. But I have some concerns in regards to the application equipment, in regards to not creating a cloud effect if you're using a loose dust and it has an active ingredient. And so we often, go towards loose dusts that are low impact. I don't want to go as far as all natural, but low impact, whether silica is the active ingredient, or diatomaceous earth is a very common dust that people use. A lot of companies are using these low impact dusts and treating cracks and crevices with them. And then there's some aerosolized dust that you can consider as well. But the bottom line is as I said before, I don't think what you're using is as important as how you're using it. So as long as you're using multiple liquid residuals and you're using a dust to treat cracks and crevices or where you need to use it, I think those are the most important things. And I know you're probably a little upset that I'm not recommending specific products, but I don't think it's about that. I think there's a lot of good products out there, and I think you can do a lot of damage just making sure that you're using the different groups of products, which I talked about before. Beyond that, I don't think there's much else to say about pesticides. The one thing I will say is it's important that you don't just rely on pesticides. And so in addition to the liquid residuals and the dusts, I would really be considering monitors, encasements, steamers, vacuums. Those make up a very strong integrated pest management plan and will help you further address resistance. Because if there's anything we know about pesticides is that bed bugs are building up resistance to them. Doesn't mean they don't work, and doesn't mean that you shouldn't be using them. You just need to be thinking about it in regards to how am I going to address it. All right, if you have any questions on pesticides, jeff.white@bedbugcentral.com, and I hope to see everybody soon enough.